My parents showed up at my new house and tried to move my brother in, so I called for help. My parents showed up at my house like they owned the place, and they brought my brother Dan, his pregnant wife Olivia, and their kids. I didn't even give them my address. I'd kept it quiet on purpose. For 2 years, I was homeless, sleeping in parking lots and scraping by. I saved until I could buy a small 3-bedroom house. Nothing fancy, but it was mine, and I was paying the mortgage. The same people standing on my porch had refused to let me park my camper in their driveway back then. They called it an eyesore and told me to figure it out. Dan laughed at me, and Olivia took pictures to mock me. So when I opened my door and saw all of them, my stomach dropped hard. My mom didn't say hi. She just looked past me and said, "Well, let's see it." Then they pushed in before I could answer. The kids ran to my living room with muddy shoes and jumped on my couch. Olivia started taking photos right away, panning across my kitchen and backyard like a listing. My dad walked around tapping walls and checking doors. My mom opened cabinets and ran her fingers along my counters. "This is way too much space for one person," she said, loud and sure of herself. I tried to block the hallway. "Why are you here?" Dan barely looked at me. He just kept staring at the rooms like he was already picking them out. My dad stepped outside and started circling the yard, talking about the driveway and Dan's work. My mom called out, "This room's for the boys," and "That one's for the girls," like I wasn't even standing there. I said, "Stop, nobody is taking rooms in my house." Dan pulled me aside into my own living room while his kids put their feet on my coffee table. He lowered his voice like this was normal. "Look, this is simple," he said. "You don't need all this." He jerked his chin toward the backyard. "We're moving in next weekend. You can stay in that camper out back." I stared at him. "No." He shook his head like I was the one being unreasonable. "The kids need stability. Olivia's pregnant again. We can't keep cramming into mom and dad's place." My mom marched in like she'd been waiting. "Daniel has 4 kids and another on the way," she said. "You're single. You don't need 3 bedrooms." My dad nodded from the doorway. "It's time you helped family instead of thinking about yourself." I couldn't believe it. These were the same people who watched me struggle. Now they were trying to kick me out of my own house. Olivia flopped onto my couch like she lived there and said, "Besides, what are you gonna do with extra rooms? Fill them with imaginary girlfriends?" She laughed, and my parents smirked. Dan stepped closer, shoulders squared, trying to intimidate me. "We're not asking," he said. "We're telling you. Family comes first. You owe us after everything we've done for you." My hands shook, but I kept my voice steady. "Everything you've done for me?" I said. "You wouldn't even let me park a camper in your driveway when I had nowhere else to go." My mom snapped. "That was different. You were irresponsible back then. Now you need to do the right thing." I knew if I kept arguing, I'd either yell or cry, and I didn't want to give them that. So I pulled out my phone and started recording. "Say it again," I said. "Tell me you want me to hand over the house I bought and I'm paying for." My dad's face tightened. "Put that away." Dan reached toward my phone, and I stepped back. Olivia hissed, "Don't record us." I raised my voice. "You forced your way into my home. I'm telling you to leave. Right now." My mom crossed her arms. "We're not leaving," she said. Dan said, "Stop being dramatic. We're family." I looked at all of them and felt something in me go calm. I smiled and said, "You're right. Family does come first." My mom's face softened like she thought she'd won. Then I dialed 911. "Hi," I said. "I need officers at my address. Several adults forced their way into my home and are refusing to leave." The change was instant. Olivia shot off the couch. Dan's eyes went wide. My dad snapped, "Hang up." My mom started talking fast. "We're just visiting. This is a misunderstanding." I kept the phone to my ear and backed into my kitchen so Dan couldn't crowd me. "They're making threats and won't leave when asked," I told the dispatcher. Dan threw up his hands. Okay, we're going," he said, polite now. Olivia yanked the kids toward the door while still calling me ungrateful. My dad pointed at me and said, "You'll regret this. Family is all you have." Dan rushed, tripped on the coffee table, and one of the kids started crying. They spilled out onto my porch, still arguing, and I stood in my doorway until their cars backed out. Then I locked the door, still shaking, and listened for the sirens.